Welcome back to Bread and Butter, where we are serving up the basics for Hearthstone improvement. This is episode 141, and as always, and in order tonight, we are joined by Pylet. Pylet, how are you tonight?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, and back for the second time in a row, Pizza. Pizza, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me back.
We're not considering you leftovers. We're very excited to actually talk to you and get to know you this time. What have you been doing inside of Hearthstone lately, Pizza?
Inside of Hearthstone, pretty much just continuing the grind for a ladder. We got rank 1 on the Asian server a couple of days ago. I'm sitting at 17 on the America servers right now, so just gonna keep playing. Hopefully, keep playing well and then get a good finish.
Yeah, that was awesome to see you at number 1 this week. Pylet, how about yourself? What have you been up to?
Not a whole lot, and when I have been playing, I've just been kind of floundering a little bit. Just kind of in the spot of, we're in the last, month before the new set drops, and kind of that lull to where ready for new stuff, as well as being super busy this month with marching bands. So I've just put in a handful of games. Still been playing around with like the Peddler DH and a couple other things here and there. Some very mixed and streaky results. But yeah, just kind of in the little lull here at the end of the expansion.
Fantastic. And I hit Legend, I believe, last week. I don't think I hit it before last week's pod. I don't remember. I have been obsessed with trying to get to 1,000 Death Knight wins, so I've been really focused on that. I played a lot of Leech, and then I played a lot of the Funky Monkey Frost, Triple Frost build, which was a lot of fun. But now I have 1,000 wins in every class, and I'm very excited about that because I feel like that's kind of like rolling credits on Hearthstone. And now I don't know what's next. Maybe we have to run some high heats or whatever like that, but we're trying to climb and do that. Pete, what have you been doing outside of the game?
Not really much. There are a lot of film festivals recently. I live in New York, so the Brooklyn Horror Film Festival is this weekend. The New York Film Festival was last month, so I have a lot of opportunity to go outside for once a month.
Any particular movies that you enjoy? What are your favorite kind of movies?
I'm pretty partial to everything, but I guess horror is probably my favorite.
Very nice, very nice. I used to watch all those horror movies in the 80s with the Nightmare on Elm Street and Child's Play and whatnot. And I was terrified after watching. I watched Poltergeist way too young, and I hate clowns after that. Because that movie was just absolutely terrifying for like a 8 or 9-year-old or whatever I was. Pylet, what have you been doing outside of the game?
Too much. Desperately waiting for our fall break next week. Well, break for teachers, because we have parent-teacher conferences coming up. So students have a couple days off. We have a day off for the extra hours that we work. But then, I still have a football game that night. So just kind of wrapping up marching band season. We hosted our band show. This is the 4th year that we've hosted the show. It's really gone really well. It's been fun to see that grow and fun to see how we've had 3 bands reach out to us for invites because they've heard about it through the grapevine and want to come, which is awesome. So we've done our job with that. Been in the days I don't have band on weekends trying to play in some set champs for Lorcana. Have not been doing as well as I hoped. Granted, both of them that I've gone in with the deck knowing that I'm playing off meta and have as likely a chance to go 0-5 as I do 5-0. And it's been the worst side of things. So I think I went 2-3 last weekend with a deck that it's close. I just haven't quite found the quite the right balance of stuff yet. And then took a different deck on a whim this week. Played earlier today in one. I was searching around for something different to play, and I found a super off meta, super aggressive list that plays top 4 in like a 2,000 person challenge tournament in Europe. So I'm like, sure, let's leave this up. I had to swap a couple cards, super low cost. I think the most expensive thing in my deck cost 3. Everything was 3 costs or less, super low to the ground, and I couldn't find my draw cards. So I ran out of steam very quickly. I also lost a die roll, so I was going second quite a bit on the draw, and that deck does not like that. I had one matchup where is the most common one that I expected to see. When I was on the play, I dominated. When I was on the draw, I floundered, and I lost the die roll in both of those. So I went second the first game and went 1-2 in best of 3. So it happens. I'm going to try to tweak it a little bit because I have one more that I can make next week, and hopefully have a little bit less competition, because there's the United States big tournament is that weekend in Milwaukee, which is not overly far from where I am. So hopefully all the really, really good players are at that, and I have a little bit easier time. Then outside of that, just bowling, kind of finding my groove. Granted, I say that, and I'll probably bowl 70 below my average now that I've said that this week, but kind of getting it into a groove and getting some consistency of. I think last week I was talking to Tito when I got back from league, and I bowled, all my games were real close with like a 215, 230, 225, and kind of kept that up tonight. Is a little bit lower but consistent, but the lanes were playing really tricky tonight. So I started my Sunday league, and then I got asked to jump in on a Tuesday league. So I'm going to be bowling 2 to 3 times a week, and we'll see how my knee holds up from that.
Yeah, because you had some knee issues last year, I remember.
I've got a brace. We're good.
Yeah, that's fair. And for those that are interested, you guys can hear or more Lorcana on Pylet's new podcast, The Mickey Mouse Operation, coming to podcatchers near you pretty soon.
It'll be all of one episode, like the Rumble Report.
Yeah, so we did a podcast about the Warcraft Rumble, and we were going to do that, and then it kind of hit the winter. That's why Pylet got a new mic and everything. We did one episode, and then he ended up coming over here, which is great. I think it's much better than that, since that game's no longer a game.
Yeah.
I not too much this week. It's the fall things. We went to the local fall pumpkin festival thing. I was going to get back on track, because for those that have been listening, I've been doing the one meal a day fasting. We've lost a lot of weight, but the last 2 weekends have been kind of, cheating off the things. It was my wife's birthday, and then we had other things and long weekends. So this weekend, I'm like, all right, we're going to get right back on track. And then, so we took my son and grandson to McDonald's before we went over to the Pumpkin Fest. And I said, I'm going to go sit down. I'll just relax, and I'll get us a table. And my wife didn't realize she just ordered the same order as last time. So she got me a meal, and I was like, well, crap, I guess I'm eating lunch today. And we had to go from that, but it was fine. We'll get back on track next week or something. We're not doing too bad, but it's fine. But anyway, Pylet, we get any news this week? I think it's kind of a slow news week outside of the cards.
I didn't see anything that caught my eye, but I also have been super busy, so I haven't been on the lookout for it. I think there might have been like a hot fix or something. I don't know if that was this week or last week, though.
Fair enough. So I guess that brings us right into our opportunity to talk to our guest, Pizza. So Pizza, this is a question we usually start out with everybody. How did you get started in gaming, and how did that lead you to Hearthstone?
Gaming in general, I've kind of always had video games accessible to me. My parents are quite young, so they had Super Nintendos. They had all the consoles for Hearthstone in particular. It's actually kind of funny because I've always been into video games, but for card games, I've started relatively late compared to most people. I played Pokemon. I've never actually played Yu-Gi-Oh, but I was in my junior year of high school, and my friends had started picking up Magic the Gathering, and they kept playing Magic, and that's all that they would do, and none of us could get anything else done. So eventually it kind of got to the point where I just sort of joined along with them at a certain point, and I just wound up being the best one of our group. And then I started going to tournaments and really followed Magic for I guess maybe 6 or 7 years of tournaments, until Hearthstone had finally kind of come and gotten some rumblings, and then I found a beta key, and I've been playing Hearthstone ever since.
I couldn't wait to get into I didn't get into the beta, but I got into as soon as they had the open beta, I was in there. I couldn't wait. I was listening to the Angry Chicken before I ever had the option to play. Hearthstone was just the game right up my alley. I played so much Warcraft. I love Magic. It was great. How did you become a streamer?
It was actually so I played Hearthstone and Magic at the same times. But when Hearthstone was coming out, I was in college, and I didn't have as much time to really focus on traveling to Magic tournaments. So I'm in school and I'm playing Hearthstone because it's mobile and you can kind of just play it at your leisure. And I actually wound up qualifying for the Americas playoffs through ladder, and I didn't think that I was going to be like too invested into Hearthstone in the first place. But I qualified for that tournament, and one of the local like LAN centers in Queens had sponsored me for that event, and part of the deal that we had for them to pay for everything was that I would stream out of their LAN center. So for like a 6-month period, like I had streamed out of there, and then through that I had gotten partnered on Twitch, and then I've been just kept going and done it ever since.
So that's awesome. That's really awesome. That's a really quick 6 months to partner. That's fantastic.
In the beginning of Hearthstone, like Twitch was really looking for people, so quite a few people. Most of the like big names from the early games, like were just kind of handed Twitch partnership off of that.
That's fair. So if people haven't been to your stream before, what's your elevator pitch for them to come watch your stream?
It's just a lot of like high level, like interactive and educational gameplay. I try really, really hard to focus on the more like intermediate aspect of gaming, apply a lot of theory, and then just teach people like how to get to that next level while playing. But also like I'm barely paying attention like on the other half of my time. So we talk a lot about music, we talk a lot about like cartoons and anime and stuff. So it's at the very least a chill atmosphere, but still educational.
Yeah, your podcast is very chill, and I've been when I watch, I always remember it's like, oh, I don't actually have to play a card this turn. You keep playing these decks, and I'm not going to play a card this turn. I'm just gonna like save it and all that. And it's like that's hard to do. That's hard to you want to play cards, you have them, and it's just like no, you don't want to put a card out there for them to swing their weapon into and get a coin. Just wait, just chill, and trying to learn from you. So tell us about your cat.
Oh, my cat is Pluto, who we can bring him on here for the viewers at home. Pluto is a half Scottish fold, half British short hair. He is 2 years old. He is the pride of my life. I actually got him from a viewer. So I had moved maybe like 3 years ago at the same time that several other viewers had moved to Queens. And he like had a litter of kittens that he was not able to handle, and had to get rid of them so that it would be a little bit easier for him. And this was one of them. Part of it, like this was him just getting to like see his cat, and I guess Pluto's parents would get to see Pluto. But yeah, I've had him ever since.
That's kind of awesome. Hey, I can't have any more cats, so I'll give it to somebody that I watch so I can see them have cats. My cat. That's great. Do you make any other content outside of streaming?
Outside of streaming, not so much. I mean, YouTube is good for long form like VODs. I often, like every so often, I'll get to do a podcast like this, but mostly just stick to streaming.
That's fair. Now in the past you've competed in HGC matches and whatnot, but more recently you've competed in some Masters Tour events and whatnot. What's your competitive history and what are your current goals for that?
I would have considered myself in the past like quite competitive, especially like I said, I started in Magic, so I played in quite a few Magic events. I've played in many Dream Hacks, many playoffs, and done quite well. The most recent Masters Tour is probably the best finish that I've had. But my present goals are pretty much just to prioritize streaming. I told myself like some odd years ago that if I were to qualify for something, I would obviously play in it and do my best, but streaming is my priority.
That's fair. There's a lot of work too to try to qualify for those and whatnot, and to just get there while you're streaming. That's very impressive. Why did you pick the name Pizza?
So when I made my account, the beta key that I got when I first started was a Christmas present from a friend of mine. We would play Magic drafts together a lot, and so for Christmas she had gotten me a Hearthstone beta key, and then we would play arenas a lot. And while we were making or logging into Battle.net to set everything else up, I was just having pizza that day, so I picked it as kind of like a throwaway thing that I wouldn't really worry about because I didn't think that I was going to play this much Hearthstone. And then ultimately, like when I did qualify for the Americas playoffs to play in that event, you have to have the same name. So it's not like I could have changed it to anything else before that event had happened. But it was also an in-person event. You show up, you get to meet all these people that you've been playing against on ladder for the entire time, and all of those people know you as Pizza. Everybody who's like on your stream knows me as Pizza. So it's kind of just something that stuck before I'd even noticed.
And I think that's funny too, because I think a lot of people, they just make their names before they decide to start making content or find their way into content. So they're just usually stuck with whatever they kind of went with at the beginning.
Exactly.
So has having such a broad name though caused you any problems like making content?
I don't eat pizza in public anymore. Every time that I do, people always try to take photos at at events, so I just don't bother.
And we know that buffalo chicken is your favorite kind of pizza.
It is.
We learned that last week. If you weren't streaming Hearthstone, what would you be streaming?
I don't know. I play lots of strategic games. Obviously, like I used to play Magic. It's been quite some time since I've played Magic, but I like Teamfight Tactics. I like lots of different like strategy games as well. So any one of those like probably would be nice.
Do you play any Battlegrounds?
I play Battlegrounds like every so often, just like every time that there's a patch, I'll check it out for a little bit, but not enough to like really dive in.
That's fair. So, what style of play do you prefer, and what is it about that style that draws you in?
I like I think most people would say that I prefer tempo decks. Being able to like be the aggressor and being able to force the action, especially for Hearthstone, is really important because Hearthstone is such a board based type of game. It allows you to really like plan out your turns, and maximizing value within like a certain period. I think is something that I'm quite adept at, and I think that helps a lot for tempo and like more aggressive decks.
That's fair, and I like when you watch your stream, you do really talk about, hey, this you plan out your turns very much. You're like, okay, it's turn 4, and you're already talking about who's going to play their Fire first or whatnot, and how to take advantage of that and all that. So definitely worth watching. What's your favorite class?
Probably Death Knight. If before like Death Knight had come out, I didn't really think too heavily about stuff, but I think at this point, actually, I do have the most Death Knight wins of anybody. But before that, I like Shaman a lot. I think that I probably played the most aggro Shaman because I was always like very fond of Doomhammer. But at the moment, it's probably Death Knight.
You're probably going to like one of the new Shaman cards that we're going to talk about. What's your favorite deck of all time?
That's a good question. The last time in the Master Tour, I said Q Block, but it might actually have been the Cube Hunter instead, the one with Katharina and King Crush. But like some form of Carnivorous Cube, I think, were my favorite like times in Hearthstone.
You just like that extra value. So just one final question. What is something people might find surprising to learn about you? Like, it doesn't have to be anything particular, just whatever.
I'm pretty big into archery. When I was in college, I took an archery class, and I really loved it. And recently, in the last year or so, I found a place that's like pretty close to me to start picking it up again. So that's probably like my main workout, as it were.
Are you left-handed or right-handed?
I'm right-handed.
All right. Everyone's not perfect, so I guess that's okay. So, Pylet, I think it's time to talk about some cards. What do you think?
Yeah, let's get into new cards, and we'll start off with Mage. So I think there we go. So, a lot of dragon support in this set. I'm kind of, as we were going through the interview, I'm kind of live reacting to some of these because I haven't had a lot of time to think about them too hard, but pushing some dragon support, especially with their Fabled, which is Syndragosa. If you can control another dragon, your arcane spells cost 2 less. One side of it is Malagos, where if you control another dragon, your arcane spells cast twice, and then a legendary spell that costs 8 that summons your dragons that died this game. I really, really like the take on that. As someone who tried to make a really bad dragon mage work a couple times a few sets ago when we had some of the bigger dragons around like Alterac, Fractured and Alterac Valor or something like that. Really, really interesting design, also bringing in the arcane spells. Not sure if we have the arcane spells to make it work effectively yet, but I know that there's enough there to at least make it something that you can look at and kind of brew with, and a couple cards that help support it, like Mirror Dimension that summons a couple 0/4 taunts if you're holding a dragon for 1 mana. We got a spell damage dragon as well in this set.
Yeah, I'm surprised Mirror Dimension wasn't arcane. Pizza, any of these cards exciting you?
I think Arcane Barrage is quite exciting. Like you get a lot of control over what you want to target. It goes face, and then you get just 2 other things. It's got a pretty broad range to play within for 3 mana, and then it's in range for Tide Pools, Primordial Glyph. Like this card seems pretty strong.
What do you think about the Fabled or the other legendary Time Looper Toki? Just before we get that,
I think they're
that's
all right.
a battle cry.
I think they're
Sorry,
all right.
that's
I mean, sorry.
Sorry, I figured I should just say what the card is. It's a 4 mana 4/4 battle cry. Get 4 random spells from the past. When you play all 4, you get another Time Looper Toki, which sounds great, except that there's a lot of crappy spells because that's like all spells.
Yeah, the stat lines for these cards, like a 5 mana 2/8 will probably like be able to stabilize the board. The problem is that this is kind of the opposite of what was discussed like when we talked a lot about Hunters, the fact that individually those cards are just fine, right? But you're not going to play your mage deck and just have a 5 mana 2/8 dragon. You're going to be really, really all in on dragons, and that means playing all of these cards to try to hit that like kind of critical mass of spells. I will say that I think that I mean, if this gives new life to Caligos, I think that that's like probably an interesting like one-shot enabler for a lot of these things. So maybe you can play the Fable package, have Caligos, and not lean too heavily on like the other random dragons. I mean, there's still Ysera, there's still Frack. Those are enablers. So this probably like isn't that poor, but it's still like a pretty heavy investment into like any deck, right? Like a lot of the time, like you're just going to wind up playing Frack and being content with that anyway.
Yeah, I suppose I'm kind of wondering if we're going to get away from Frack at some point. Obviously, we're probably also playing the 7 mana 7/7 make your dragons 1. That's going to find its way here too, right? I like the other cards. Like the dragons are going to be fine, I guess. Azure Oathstone seems okay because it summons all your dragons that died this game. That's one of the Fable cards, but it's 8 mana. So it's going to be really hard to play that and get some things done unless you're also playing Ysera. You got Ysera down. But if you can get this, so there's a 5 mana 4/7 spell damage +2 dragon, which is interesting. And if that's played with, and all these dragons come back on one turn and you can do something, maybe there's something there. It's almost kind of like Owlish, not doubling, but at least there's a lot of potential for spell damage there, board clear, and some damage to the face. The Temporal Construct seems pretty good. 7 mana 5/5, kind of expensive, but Battle Cry deal 5 damage to any minion. Draw cards equal to the excess damage. So, that's potentially a lot of reload right there if you need it.
It is. I kind of want one of the numbers to be better on that. I think if it's a 6/6 or if it costs 6 or something like that, I think it's a really good card. I think it's either 1 mana too expensive or 1 stat penalty too much for the effect. I think if one of those was bumped, it'd be just a super solid general mage card.
That's fair.
So.
I think I think Anomalize is going to be fun, but it's not. I think a lot of these cards are not going to be cards you necessarily run. Like Anomalize, you're going to generate semi-stable portal. You're probably well. Are we running semi-stable portal? So that's a 2-mana rewind. Add a random minion to your hand. It costs 3 less.
I think you're just happy.
Is that just too random,
right? Like you're just kind of content with generating it. It's similar to most of the time, like when, let's take Questmate for example. Like you're going to have this appear. You're going to get a dude. In this case, you get 2 shots at a dude, and then that is what's going to carry a lot of like the early to mid game, is to be able to like keep you stable so that you can supplement a lot of other things. I think the same thing for Anomalize. Like these are both cards that, you know, you're not going to start a game and be like, okay, I'm going to have a 10 drop, but you're going to have, your opponent is now going to have to deal with a 10 drop, right? Like that's kind of the whole point. So they're kind of respectable. I mean, I think that they just like wind up appearing at one point in a game, and then you're content with them.
Yeah, I mean, Anomalize, if we have a 1 last hurrah for projection orb deck, Anomalize is a 7 drop probably, because I think our 7 drop spot is really weak right now. It's what Firelands Portal I think is kind of the best one. So unless we're controlling and we're playing Flame Strike, so I think that kind of boosts that deck a little bit. Semi-stable Portal, a lot of these cards, if you're wanting to be very specific about the cards you have in your deck, to where you're trying to have just these dragons, that way if you have something that's targeted draw, you're just hitting those, or if you're just trying to generate value, I think those cards are fine. Kind of jumping back to the dragons, I think the 8-mana spell is the reason that you play that, because you're not I mean, the dragons that you want to bring back, you're going to be playing late game anyways. So the 8-mana cost, I'm not too worried about unless we're dead by then. But I think that's the reason to run the Fabled package more than the first 2 dragons, just to have that huge board at the end of the game. Toki, I don't think is going to be good, but I love the design, and I really like this as a constant value engine over something like Kill Jaden, because it's a lot more awkward. It's a lot more random and not as good random, but it's something to where if you want to have something to where you're constantly having this endless supply of resources, I like this type of design a lot better than the growing portal that denies fatigue.
And I think Azure Ozone, I agree with you, but the problem is you want to get the arcane kind of combination there, and if you don't have enough mana to do something with it, you're just kind of bringing all your dragons back and then leaving it possibly to be cleared by that, probably ceaseless by that time or whatnot. But what's the order of projection orb? Is it 1 to 10 or 10 to 1?
1 to 10, I think.
That's a bummer, because if we would have went backwards, it would have been pretty nice. You get your Azure Ozone, bring all your dragons back, get all that arcane stuff, and then have, or the double damage or whatnot, and then get it. So I don't know. I think it's fun. One last minion I want to talk about before we move on to the next class is Faceless Enigma. I think this is an interesting design. It's a 2-mana 2/2 battle cry. Look at 2 random secrets. Pick one to cast for yourself, the other cast for your opponent. This is a weird card. I think, again, I don't think this is one you run unless you just kind of, you choose violence. But I also think it's going to be fun to generate, and it's going to probably affect things. Pizza, what do you think about this card particularly?
Yeah, it is kind of interesting to evaluate. It's definitely aggressively statted, and I guess the idea is that like you would just give your opponent a bad secret, which first of all is not much of a secret. But like the problem is that a lot of the time your opponent would be content. Like, what's a bad secret? Rat Trap, I guess. Maybe like the new hunter spell that gives them a minion the turn after it dies, and then you get the information, but they still ultimately will have to acknowledge a thing. There's 2 shots, right? So if it winds up being any number of variables, like it winds up being freezing trap, explosive trap. It's really hard to imagine a scenario where you're going to play a 2/2, you're going to be happy with a random secret, and then you're going to like be maneuverable to your opponent's secret in that spot, right? Like you'd better off just playing Observer Mysteries. Or just a secret.
Fair. Yeah, no, fair. I think that I mean, there's some scenarios where you might be able to take advantage of it, where it's like you give them bargain bin and then play a spell that then makes them burn cards or whatever like that. But this is one of those ones I know this is a very French scenario. I kind of wish this is one of those ones that was the from the past, because then it becomes really interesting, because then it's not just the like the whatever the 7, 8, 9, 10 secrets we have right now, but then it's a lot more confusing about what you may have, and then also paladin secrets, right?
Hmm.
Bring those back, get a little eye for an eye action going. So I think that could have been fun, but I think it's going to be an interesting card.
Maybe that's the
Does
buff.
anybody else? Yeah, that'd be great. I think that's one of those few times where actually having from the past might be better than just what we have in our pool. But does
Would be
anybody
for
else
the
have any
person
thoughts
playing
on
it.
main card? Yeah.
I'm sure that everyone will be thrilled to see ice blocks and objections and oh my yogs running around again.
I forgot about those cards. Oh my god, that was such a card. So does anybody have any final thoughts on Mage before we move on to our next class? And I already realized I'm going to have a lot of work editing to get all the cross talk that I've created in this episode. All right, so next we have Warrior. Pilot, why don't you go us through this?
Yeah, so focusing on kind of the packages we have, some disruption cards here, and then a lot of kind of big / recruit from your deck style things with an 8 mana 13/13 rush battlecry, fill your opponent's board with random 1-cost minions. We have a couple things that help pull things from your deck. There's a 5-cost card, summon a random minion from your deck, and summon a 5/5 tiger with stealth for your opponent. So some interesting takes with those, and some interesting things to kind of balance them out that we haven't seen as much before, as well as we've got a lot of things that kind of do something for your opponent in this warrior set, like a 1-mana spell that gives 10 armor but summons 2/2/3s for your opponent. I think one of my personal favorite cards I've seen from this, I think, is really solid, especially if we start to see Control Warrior into an aggro meta, is For Glory. 5-cost spell, draw 2 cards, but it costs 1 less for each minion your opponent controls, I believe is what it says. So if we're seeing a lot of aggro paladin, some sort of beast hunter deck, then that could very easily be 1 or 0 mana, draw 2, which is good. And then as far as our legendaries, we have Chrono Lord Epoch, 6 mana 7/5 battlecry, destroy all minions that your opponent played last turn. And then the Fabled cards for this one all work together a little bit more like what we saw for the Hunter, where we have all these blood fighters where they each have a death rattle and a keyword, with the death rattle being summon another blood fighter from your hand. It gains +5/+5 and whatever keyword of the one died. So there's a rush one that it summons another one from hand, gives it 5/5, and it attacks a random enemy. One is taunt, one is elusive. So something that is definitely dependent on you drawing the cards, but if we have ways to tutor them, and especially if we're playing some sort of recruit style deck, I could see those working a little bit easier together, because then you can hold the one in hand and pull it from your deck. We still have things like Food Fight in standard for the last few months here that kind of support that as well.
Pizza, how excited are you for Warrior? Anything you like here?
I actually quite like the Fabled card. In like the past few expansions, we've had a lot of these types of warrior decks. Draenei Warrior was always available. Dragon Warrior was always available, and structurally speaking, those decks were fine, right? It's just that they weren't as fine as most of the things in the meta, and then they wind up kind of getting pushed out because it's just so difficult to establish yourself. I mean, a 4-mana dragon that enables dragon synergy, that gives you a weapon that allows you to scale. The Fabled itself not only has the ability to attack the opponent's face in the same turn, but protects itself a number of ways, like through elusive and taunt. I think that these are really, really good kind of supplementary cards for those types of decks. And at the very least, for like the first couple days of a set, I'm always trying to like get those things to work. So hopefully this is like a little bit more of a nudge towards that. But I think that these are really, really good. Kind of these, for the most part, these are all really good, just like mid-range cards. The Chronolord is a little bit sketchy, because if it winds up like it's just such a weird card. I don't think that you would necessarily like mind playing it. It is a dragon. It's just the problem is that like, what are you going to do about the other minions? I think that's like ultimately the question that's going to be raised a lot of the time when you include a card like this. But I guess that's what the body's for. But I'm pretty like okay with all of them. You know, the problem is that like okay is asking a lot of other questions alongside of it. But these are all like reasonable cards.
Do we play Stadium Announcer to destroy the metal detectors? Is that a thing that's going to happen? Or
I mean, metal detector gets its value the turn that it comes into play, right? You play Stadium Announcer and you get a 4/3 metal detector. That's the move.
Yeah, I think
Fair
if we
enough.
see 3 durability weapons more often, I think then you use Stadium Announcer in that way. Or if we're seeing, Quest Mage run rampant for some reason, then that its value goes up. I really think for Chrono Lord, I think it has more value just being an option in the meta that people have to consider. Because if you get brawled on 5, then you've got to think about, am I getting hit with this if I redevelop on 6? So it at least makes you think about, it's another possible follow-up for, okay, my board got cleared. This is something that they could be sitting on. How far do I develop into that? Or how do I kind of stagger my development to play around that? I think that just having that option, similar to like when we had to always think about, okay, do I play around Brawl? Do I play around Shield Shatter? Do I play around Blade Storm? When Control Warrior had all those different tools that all serve very different purposes, and you had to kind of figure out what's the most likely one that they're going to use. This kind of falls into that, and it makes it interesting on the other side.
Sure, but it doesn't take care of like the extra Ziliacs that you get from the Ziliacs. It doesn't take care of the Starship that was just launched. It doesn't take care of a lot of things. So it's definitely going to be situational. It's going to depend on what's being played in the meta. If there are a lot of things being summoned or whatnot, but this is a deck I look at, and I wish that one thing I've wanted for a while is I really want them to change the core set with these expansions. And like this deck go really well with like a Whirlwind and bring that back or something, and just really kind of give you opportunity to, because we still have the Berserk or whatever his name is, the 2/4. Give your opponent all these minions and do 1 damage to them all, and then play Hereafter, which is Battlecry, gain +2/+2 for each damage minion. There'd be good options here, but I don't think we really have anything good for that. You have
we
the
have
shell
better
one,
Whirlwind.
but
We already have better Whirlwind. We have the 1 cost, choose 1. I think it costs 1. It's choose 1, deal 1 damage to all, or give a damage minion +2/+2.
That's fair. But that card got played so little, I don't even remember that it existed until you said that.
I mean, it's a newer card, but I mean, we haven't had any reason to run it. Like, the Enraged stuff hasn't taken off yet, but this is a pretty big payoff for it. That's a big stat bomb on 5, especially because it takes into account both sides of the board. If you're doing that and also, dealing little chip damage to the other side along the way, it wouldn't be much for this to be +8/+8 on turn 5.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how happy do we think Enzo's going to be?
9.
All right, fair.
For those who don't know,
anybody-
Enzo is a strong warrior enthusiast. So in Coin Concede, to where pretty much only plays warrior and always has weird brews.
But he's got some interesting ones too. And when they hit, they hit. All right. Does anybody have any final thoughts on Warrior before we move on to our next class?
Oh, I do kind of want to give a note to Precursory Strike.
Okay.
It allows you to kind of cut down. I think it's a decent control card because it allows you to cut down the amount of minions that you really want to play, so that you can have more removal, so that they can all kind of find each other. I think that card's probably going to surprise people with how it's used.
Yep.
Do we also like gladiator combat for that same situation to try to pull out our fabled cards here or whatnot?
It is kind of like what was it, commencement? Like any of the recruit cards. It's been a while since that type of thing has been shown for warrior. I mean, just summon a Tortola every time.
Yeah.
Mech
That'll be gross.
warrior could probably use it, and then it doesn't have to play all you can eat. The problem is cuticle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see where that falls, because the thing with like commencement was, it started to get really powerful when, if you were facing a deck that you knew played smaller minions, to where what you're pulling is bigger than anything that's in their deck. With it being guaranteed, what it is, it takes out the variables from game to game, to where you're not worried like, oh, I'm playing another big deck, I can't really play this because their thing might be better than mine. But it's harder to use against something more aggressive, because now you're giving them a bigger minion than what we would have before.
That's fair. I also like the undefeated champion. That just seems like a fun card. I don't know what we do. It's you board lock your opponent, or at least you kind of do, and then they have to run all these minions into your minion because you have a big 13/13. I don't know. I think it sounds fun. All right, let's see what our next class is, and it is Demon Hunter. I am very excited for Demon Hunter. Pylet, go ahead.
I'm half excited, half very confused for the Demon Hunter set. So I'm going to start with the confused part, because we got a lot of no minion in deck support, which we have seen before, and we've seen really interesting takes with it, to where we used to have that legendary weapon that turned 3 minions into the spells, the 1-cost souls that you discovered one from. And they're kind of doing some things like that too, to where they're saying if you have no minions, then they're all giving benefits to minions. So like we have a 2-mana spell, discover minion. If your deck has no minions, reduce the cost of any in your hand by 2. We have a 1-mana 2/2 weapon that Death Rattle, get a random demon from the past. We have a 3-cost spell, give your hero +4 attack. If your deck has no minions, give any in hand +4 attack. So we have a lot of that support, but I don't know if we have the enough cards that kind of generate the minions into your hand that are good enough, that aren't going to clog up our deck to make this work. Or maybe these cards, some of them might just be good enough on their own. You don't need, that huge critical mass of them to be able to make them work. Hitting 2 minions might be just fine. And one of the legendary cards does lean into that. We have a 6-mana location, the Eternal Hold. Get a demon that costs 5 or more. If your deck has no minions, your next one costs 0. So if you have no minions in deck, whatever demon that you are discovering, you can instantly play. The demon pool is quite varied if you have played Kil'jaeden, especially the 5 or more. But it is a solid support card for that deck. Thoughts on that package? Because that's kind of the biggest package that we see here in the Demon Hunter pool.
Go ahead, Pizza.
I think it's plenty doable. I think the question ultimately is, are you sad that you don't have minions in your deck? I don't think the answer is no. Because there's so much action. There's dread seeds. There's locations. There's no shortage of cycling, as we've seen out of Demon Hunter, and it's also get a demon, which does broaden the range. But 5 or more is kind of a lot, right? Or it kind of is not that unreasonable. I'm looking now, just like what would the worst thing be? Archimon, Despicable Dreadlord, and even then, if there's no minions in your deck, you just make an action. I don't think the pool is that bad. You get Kil'jaeden, and then suddenly your deck does have minions.
No, it doesn't, does it? Because I think you don't have minions. That's a portal. Your deck is like still has no minions because it's gone. It's now a portal, right?
It would. It considered the way that it works is it considers your deck the portal is your deck is 30 minions. Because you can still pull cards from your opponent's deck after they've killed Jaden. If you play, something like the demon that draws from your opponent's deck, and if you or get a copy or whatever it is.
Okay, that's fair. But I think the real reason you want to do that is the fable, the Brock cigar, whatever his name is, because you get the that's a 2-mana 12/12 fable charge, start of game, disappear. Kill all 4 demons from Argus to reappear in your hand. And the way that works is there are portals that get shuffled into, I believe, your deck. And when you draw them, that is a portal that you play to have, and there's not cast when drawn. It's played, so you can control it. And when you do that, you can you kill the demon, and then it just appears in your hand, right, or reappears in your hand. So I don't know. I think this is interesting. I think the payoff is interesting too. Do you like to play Demon Hunter Pizza?
Sometimes I think Roxigar is a card that I would like to play. I will note that the minions are progressively larger, so a lot of people were concerned about just like some big like OTK scenario, which definitely like is available. I think it's gonna be a little bit more difficult than people expect, but I don't think this is that bad. I think that Demon Hunter, I think that these cards are quite good, especially like something like no minion Demon Hunter. I mean, the payoff on a lot of these cards is definitely worth. And Broxigar, actually, the minions themselves that you get out of Broxigar don't shuffle in, right? You get the dude.
You get a portal.
You get
a portal. You have to play the portal.
Yeah. Like this is fine.
Yeah. I think Broxigar is incredibly strong. I think that that's going to be one of the cards that we see most from this set. It does take a lot of work to get there, but all the portals cost 0, and all the minions that they summon are something 1. So it's very easy for Demon Hunter to deal 1 damage, especially when you're not spending mana to summon the thing. Are you always wanting and able to run your face into them? Maybe not. But I think especially if we're throwing in something like this no minion deck, because it would not be in your deck because it disappears, and it throws in the first portal, and then the other fabled card with it is a weapon that draws the portals. So you have this available, and you're able to kind of cycle through that fairly easily once you draw them. I think the biggest question is drawing them. But I think, especially with the weapon, and if we get enough draw cards into that spell pool, I think that this could be something that we see fairly often.
And you get some support there, like Hounds of Fury, which is a 4-mana spell, summon 2 3/3 demons. If your deck has no minions, they attack the lowest health enemy. The Aeon Rend is rewind, deal 4 damage to 2 random enemies, so you get to try that twice if it doesn't hit what you want. That doesn't people have kind of compared that to like a fire pyroblast or something like that, but it's not. It's dealing 4 damage. It can't do 4 damage twice of the same thing, so it's a nice utility tool. We also have a couple other cards, like Doomsday Prepper is a 5-mana 5/4 outcast. Your hero is immune until your next turn. You won't be playing that in the no minion deck, but it seems like a fairly solid card for something like what do you call it, a Starship, or even a Cliff Dive Demon Hunter, or something along those lines. It's a solid card, I think. Just, we've had that effect before, and just buying yourself a turn. I don't know. I think this is interesting. You also have Timely Warden, which we talked about earlier a couple of weeks ago, because this is one of the initial cards, which is a 4-mana 2/6 Battle Cry. Imprison an enemy minion. It goes dormant for 10,000 turns. Death Rattle Awaken it. So I don't know if that extends the turn timer or not, but I tend to doubt it.
I thought for sure we were going to see some silence effects in the Demon Hunter set when we saw this card.
Yeah, or a bounce or something, right? Like some kind of way to take advantage of that. But probably good that you can't. You know, that would be kind of. I mean, you can do it in wild. That'll be interesting in wild. I really want to see like somebody take somebody's board and turn all 7 slots into a dormant for 10,000 turns, and then just kind of win the game that way.
Yep.
I don't know.
If
Hey,
Ancient of Yours stays
just
prevalent, we're going to see a lot of the serpents.
yes,
Yep.
that's actually not bad.
Yeah.
So the serpent is 8, Marta 7, 9. Rush costs 4 less if a minion is dormant. It doesn't say your minion or their minion; it just has to be a dormant minion. So yeah, that's not bad. And there's also the whole concept of it doesn't say your deck. You like the changes to Renos where you can't have any minions that started in your deck. This is just no minions in your deck, so you can play minions and then if you want to, and then get them out and then do the no minion thing afterwards. I don't think you want to do that. I don't think we have the set for that, but sometimes you don't know until you see someone come up with something, right? So, any final thoughts on Demon Hunter before we move on to the next class?
No, I think it's quite good. I think Hounds of Fury, once somebody plays Hounds of Fury once, they're probably going to want to play it again. So I'm excited to see how these cards work.
I'm very excited as well. All right, Rogue. Go ahead, Pylet.
So Rogue, we got very interesting set. I haven't quite figured out how to evaluate this one yet. So we'll kind of go through legendaries first. Our Fabled card is Garona, 4 mana, 5/4. Fabled Battlecry. If your opponent is holding King Lane, destroy him and cut their health in half. So King Lane is one of the Fabled cards. It's a 3 mana 3/3. Start a game. He hides in your opponent's deck. And it has a battle cry, draw a card, shuffle him back into the deck. So that will, when you play this at the start of the game, it'll hop over into your opponent's deck. And then it also has a 2-cost weapon with 3 attack, 2 durability. After your hero attacks, both players draw a legendary card. I think this is a very flashy effect. It's definitely better against some classes than others. I think people will have a lot of fun when they run into Death Knights that have gotten up to 70 max health after leeches and everything else, and they take them back to where they started the game. But other than that, I don't know if it's going to be consistent enough. I do think that the weapon is really interesting, especially if you're running against something like, we have the Aggro Paladin right now that doesn't run any legendaries. So one, it's guaranteed to draw the King Lane for your opponent, and 2, it gives you better cycle. So it's a really interesting set of cards and a really interesting mechanic. I don't know if it's going to be meta warping, but it's a fun tool to have at least.
Yeah, I think this deck is really interesting, and I'm looking forward to seeing this played. I don't know if it's good, but it just seems like it's pretty interesting as far as the Fabled. What do you think there, Pizza? Is King Lane going to be a Terra to have in your deck, or is this going to be? And actually, if when it says destroy your health and cut your health in half, is that your max health, or does it bring you down to 15 max health, or is it just
I think it just
you
deals
take
damage.
15 damage? Okay.
Yeah. It's cute. I mean, it definitely does damage, right? The thing is that like I really, really want Sinister Strike to be in the game for stuff like this. We've seen it a bit in the past, especially when Dark Gifts were first introduced. Like there are a lot of Cinder Sword decks, there were a lot of aggressive decks, and it's very, very possible, right? To play a game and like to have that aggressive of a start in your rogue deck. The problem is that it's not possible to do that like every time, and that's a really big deterrent for people. I wish that there were a little bit more aggressive support to try and like make that scenario, because it really feels like that's what this card was meant for. I suppose Chrono Daggers is like some extra bit of action, but this like this is a Sinister Strike card, you know, like this is not a card where you're going to give them the turn back and like present an opportunity for them to like maneuver or, you know, play around inevitable chrono daggers for that spot. You could play for like a few more mid-range strategies where you would get to draw legendary cards outside of that and then just kind of like have the Kingslayers as a draw engine, but it really does make like that's the most forward in my mind is Sinister Strike, Garona, do stuff and then hit them.
That's fair. I don't. It's one of those things where I'm glad it only does start of the game and it's not battle cry or some kind of way to get multiple king lanes in your deck. Although that would be pretty funny to see Garona come down and kill 3 king lanes at the same time and watch your health get halved and halved and halved. We have the other legendary is a 5-mana 4/6 Dragon Pirate, Time Admiral Hooktail. Battle Cry, summon a 0/8 chest for your opponent. It is full of coins. And so Death Rattle fill your opponent's hand with coins. It's kind of like Marin the Fox used to be, only you're getting coins instead of treasures. There's no Wishing Well, otherwise Pylet would be very excited about this card. Pizza, do we really care about having that many coins in Rogue at this point? There's no combo effect that's really requiring you to play a whole handful of cards, right?
It's a good stat line. I think that's the real key is that the chest is meant to be some sort of a drawback to give your opponent like that kind of space. It's a pirate, it's a dragon, it's got like decent pirate synergies. I was a very, very big fan of Pirate Rogue. Am I gonna play a 5-mana? Like, I'm gonna pay 5 mana for this? Can I just water cannon again? It's like,
yep.
I can see where they were going because it's definitely like a card. It really feels like it's meant for arena. Yeah, I'm not feeling it.
Fair. What do you think about the other? So we have a whole nother effect or another kind of package where we're discovering cards in our opponent's hand and doing things. So we have Deja Vu, which is 1 mana to discover a copy of a card in your opponent's hand. It costs 1 less. We have another. What do you call it? Discover each turn this is in your hand, transform into a random miniature. I forget the name of the card that we used to see, but it was a legendary. Now it's a rare.
Chronos?
Do we like that?
Oh, Chameleos.
Yeah. Chameleos.
Yep.
That's it.
I like Deja Vu.
And then we have.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Finish.
Deja Vu seems pretty solid.
Yes.
Shapeshifter seems horrible. Fast Forward seems interesting, which is the 4 mana, draw 2 cards, pick one to have its cost reduced by 2. There's some potential there. Rogue set's kind of a little all over the place, I think. Are we happy with this? Is this going to just kind of enhance what Rogue's already doing, or do we see any potential for any kind of new strategies here?
Yeah, I think that if there's like one card where everybody's kind of on the same page of this is a strong card, this will inevitably see play, I think that the Rogue set, you know, is a win. And Deja Vu is a very, very it's a very strong card. Like, obviously it gives you access to your opponent's stuff. Obviously it discounts it, but it also gives you the information at your choosing. Like, it gives you access to quest rewards, but I really always, you know, it always helps to like see what your opponent is capable of and being able to capitalize on top of it for less mana. Like this card is very, very strong. So you will see Deja Vu.
And I don't know if this is any good at all, but you can play if you're not on the coin, you can potentially get your opponent's quest. I don't know if like you want to play the mage quest or something like that, but there's a potential for that at least. Pylet, what are your thoughts on the rest of the set here?
Yeah, I actually really like the rest of the Rogue set for the most part. I mean, Shapeshifter is what it is. Royal Informant is what it is. They're stereotypical kind of epics that are really weird and out there and probably don't find much of a home. I did find it really interesting that they decided not to, you know, bring Choose One into Royal Informant, so you can't randomly get it from some other like choose one card. But I think, especially if we're going all in on some sort of tempo rogue that is using coins and generating coins with Metal Detector or O Manager, if we're able to get Hooktail down earlier than 5, it makes it much more intriguing. So if we're able to, Metal Detector on 3, get a coin, play it on 4, and then have a steady or a consistent way to break the chest, then we got a lot of combo cards in this set. Flashback, 2 cost, summon 2 random 1 cost minions from the past, combo with +1 attack. It's fine. But a combo card, we have a 4 cost minion with stealth, 4 cost 3/3 stealth, combo summon a copy of this. We have also Dethrone, which is a 7 cost shadow spell, destroy a minion, combo summon a random 8 cost minion. So if we're constantly doing something tempo related with coins and or scoundrel while it's still in standard, then I think all those pieces fit together really, really nicely. I think that prep is the big winner from the rogue set because prepping fast forward, prepping flashback on turn 1, prepping dethrone on 5, then those are really, really powerful plays. So I think that there's a lot of potential there. It's just kind of the matter of does it do enough to kind of make that style of rogue shift away from Fyrak and what they're currently doing.
So Royal Informant, that's Kriparian, right?
Oh, it does kind of look like him, yeah.
It does.
I mean, that's got to be a tribute somehow. All right, so we'll move on to Shaman. And Pizza, I just want to say that one of the things that inspired me was playing against you in the last theory crafting, which is the only time I'm ever going to see you on any kind of ladder. But you played the Cinder Shaman deck where you played the Umbra at the end and just Shutter Block into Umbra, and I just sat there taking like 60 damage from nowhere, and I've been over the course of the entire expansion, I've been trying to make that work occasionally here and there, and it wasn't really as good as you made it out to be, but I really, really enjoyed that deck that you built.
That Shutter Block strong. Like, never stop being strong.
Hey, so Pylet, what are we doing in Shaman? Are we still strong?
I very much think so. I really, really like the Shaman set. I'm gonna start on the opposite side because I think that we have a couple cards that we can talk about more quickly. We have one legendary, Farseer Woe, a 4 cost 2/6 elusive. After you cast a spell, discover a nature spell from the past. I think 4 cost is fine for something that's in effect like this, to where it's easier to kind of weave it in with something else, but it's a value engine with it being random. It's not a Instructor Fireheart, which was just a really strong card, but I think it's something, if a Shaman deck is interested in that, it's at least it's playable, but I don't think it's something that all of them are looking to do. And then we got a ton of nature spells through this set. We have things like Lightning Rod, 1 mana, deal 2 damage to a friendly minion to deal 4 to a random enemy minion. We have a 0 cost spell, Static Shock, deal 1 damage to a minion, give your hero +1 attack this turn. 3 costs, Nascent Bolt, I think is how that's said. Deal 5 damage to a minion. If it survives, draw 2 cards. 2 cost Thunderquake, deal 1 damage to all minions, get a Static Shock, which was a 0 cost spell. And then we got a bunch of minions that benefit from those. We have 2 elementals that if you would deal damage to it with a nature spell, it gets a bonus rather than taking the damage. So we have a 2 cost 1/4 elemental that has taunt. If you would do damage with a nature spell, it gains +2/+1 instead. And then 5 cost elemental beast, 5/5 Stormrook. Whenever you would damage this with a nature spell, summon a random 5 cost minion instead. And then also a 2 mana 2/3 Battlecry. If you cast a nature spell while holding this, gain +1/+1 and draw a card. So very heavy in the nature spell. Nature spells for this set. Reminds me a lot more of less of nature shaman that we just got away from with bioluminescence, but a lot more of like when we were doing storm strike and Inara and just hitting people in the face with nature spells, and I am all for that.
Yeah, this seems like a lot of fun, and I actually I know it's not going to be good, but I'm looking forward to playing the instant multiverse, which is a 6 mana rewind summon 12 mana worth of random minions. Overload 3. I want to know if it always summons 12 mana worth of minions. So if you play it and you have 5 minions on board, is it going to make sure that those two are at least 6/6 or 6 mana, or if it's just kind of like assuming you have an empty board and it'll keep playing minions until it reaches that amount. I don't know. Pizza, do you know anything about that, or
Excuse me?
do you know if that's how well, how do you think that will work if you have minions on board?
If you have minions on board with which card?
The instant multiverse,
Oh, if you
which
have.
it plays.
Oh, I think it's
If
just.
you already have minions,
I think it would go. So minions. I think it would summon like left or right, and it would try to spend the mana. I don't think it would like, hey, you have 6 minions in play. Let me summon a 12 mana minion. I think it just summons dudes, and then at one point it'll stop summoning dudes,
that's fair.
and then you get
It'd be
what you
kind of
get.
interesting though if you could force it. What are your thoughts on the set?
I like the shaman set. I think that these are first of all they're very synergistic, right? Like nature is kind of a shaman mechanic. We've already seen it with cards like lightning reflexes in the past. A lot of people have talked about Farseer Woe, right? That's his name. And I like it. I think that the pool of nature spells is like, okay, you get to discover, right? Because it's discover, it's delegated to shaman spells. I think if you hit one lightning bloom, like I could definitely figure out how to kill my opponent from that and just keep chaining together those 0 mana spells. But these are also just like very, very well statted. Like you're not going to be sad about a 2 mana 1/4 elemental. Flux Revenant seems quite strong. Primordial Overseer has good synergy because it protects itself, but it also cycles further into the deck. I mean, these are reasonable cards on the surface, and then they do a thing that you could do, right? But the nature aspect of all these things are also things that you would want to do, right? Like I would be pretty okay with casting Static Shock, and I'd be more okay with casting Static Shock if I cast it on Stormrook and then got a 5 drop out of it. So yeah, I mean this is the best that I've seen so far out of the set, to be honest.
And the Static Shock, and which gives you 1 damage, gives your hero +1 attack. I mean, is actually really good with the Fable card. Did we already talk about the Fable card last week, or
We did not. I had not gotten to that one yet.
that I think is the card that's going to go in pretty much any shaman deck that we go for the next 4 sets, right?
Potentially. So the fabled card is Muradin High King, 5 mana 2/3, rush, battle cry, bring the High King's hammer to me, death rattle added to hand. The High King's hammer is a 6-cost weapon, 3 attack, 4 durability. Wind Fury, death rattle, shuffle this into your deck with +2 attack permanently. And then the third fabled card is a 3-cost spell, avatar form. Give a friendly character +2 attack, and after this attack, deal 2 damage to all enemies for this turn. So all those work together, all those say damage. I really like that.
Pluto doesn't look pretty impressed, but Pizza, do you like this card?
I do like this card. It starts off, it's a 6/6, right? You play it, the battle cry happens, and then the weapon attaches to him.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah, that seems quite strong, especially like it applies the Wind Fury, it gets immediate value. Yeah, all the shaman cards seem quite strong.
Do we have any?
So. I'm looking forward to playing this.
Sorry. Do we have any resurrect effects in Shaman right now to bring back the High King to get the second weapon? Like when it death rattles and goes into deck, do we have any consistent way to do that again?
You could hero call your mixologist.
I mean, that's probably your best, right? I don't know. This looks like a lot of fun. I'm really excited for Shaman. I think we're going to see some. I don't know what we're doing with it aside from playing the High King and some nature spells. Are we gonna raid some kind of like elemental kind of package to go along with it or whatnot? But these cards seem fun, and just yeah, overall pretty solid. I don't think there's really too many bad cards here that aren't going to see play. I don't know. I'm not as sold on Farseer Wu as Pizza is, but I trust in him that he knows more than I do. So maybe it's going to be better than I think it is.
Discover
All it
does a
takes-
lot of work there.
That's true.
And you've got a lot of options. Lightning Bloom, Lightning Reflexes to discover a nature spell, and you grab a Static Shock, and now you're getting a couple nature spells, and you can chain stuff together really quickly if you get the right discovers.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting how with this set they gave us a lot of kind of discovers, but also discovers from the past, and how they chose which cards to put it on. I was kind of curious. Yeah, it's going to be fun. Any final thoughts on Shaman before we wrap things up?
No, I'm excited to play it.
All right, I think that's it. Yeah. So, Pizza, we have one final question for you today that we didn't ask you last week. What is your favorite dessert?
Oh, that's a good question. The older I get, the more that I try to shy away from desserts. But
Smart.
I'll take a good red velvet cake any day.
That's a very, very good choice. So, if you'd like to support our show, you can do so by joining our Patreon over at patreon.com/bread and butter. Yes, sorry, bread and butter HS. I did say bread and butter HS. I did go and change it today. So it's no longer bread and butter. I'm never going to have to say that again. If you're already a patron or on there, you're just going to have to change it once. If you already have the RSS feed, it shouldn't change. If it does, let me know and I will help you out there. But if you are a patron, you get access to our raw audio early. You can get onto a members channel on Discord where you can help ask questions for our guests. If you want to know a little bit more about pizza, if you wanted to ask them something specific, you could have gave us that question. We would have asked them and help shape future episodes. If there's topics you want to talk about, we can get there. If you'd like to support us in a non-financial way, just let people know about the show and know us how we're doing. Let us know how we're doing, excuse me, because we'd like to know. I also just started a bread and butter HS channel on YouTube where we will be having the VODs go in the future and we will be streaming live on there in the future. In fact, we'll probably be streaming live on a bread and butter Twitch channel pretty soon. For now, I'm still on Tito. A lot of there. And we also have changed the email, which is now instead of bread and butter like it was, it's now bread and butter HS at gmail.com. So a lot easier to find us, a lot easier to just know where we are. And yeah, so that should be shorter in the future now that we have all that information there. Pizza, where can people find you online?
You can find me every day on twitch.tv/pizzahs. I'm also on YouTube, on youtube.com/pizzahs, and on Twitter at pizzatcg.
Pylet, where can people find you?
You can find me Pylet712. That's Pylet. I'm on Twitter and Blue Sky, and you can also find me on Discord. I'm in a few different Hearthstone related Discords.
And you can find me on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok at Tito Santana HS, especially on YouTube right now. We've been working really hard to make a lot more content. It's been a lot of fun. It's also been kind of obsessive. So I'd love to get any feedback that you have. We have lots planned, and I can't wait to bring that to everybody. Pizza, do you have anything you'd like to promote or anything you'd like to shout out this week?
Shout out to Ben Hearthstone. When looking through the reviews, he had everything set up, and that was like where I got all my opinions and information about the set. So shout out to him for having that available.
Yeah, he's great. In fact, we usually use the work that he does for the shows when we have the graphics. He makes all those nice graphics, and he hasn't yelled at us for using them yet. So, yeah. Pylet, you got anything you'd like to promote or shout out this week?
Now he knows to yell at us about it. Shout out Shadow Avion, who told me they were a listener also played them in my top 4 match for Coin Concede listener series. Had a close match that didn't quite go my way, but was really fun match. Really fun opponent, and had a nice time kind of chatting with him about the games and stuff afterwards. So shout out to him, and then shout out also to you, Tito, for all the work that you've put in. He talked about it a little bit, but I want to make sure everyone kind of knows you put in an obsessive amount of hours the past week and just putting together content, trying to find ways to make things a little bit smoother, and I appreciate all the things that you've done for that, especially since 1, I don't have time for it, and 2, I don't have the skills for that right now. So thank you very much.
Well, I don't have the skills for it either. In fact, I'm going to shout out This Week in Hearthstone, who has actually helped me out, starting to help me out a little bit on the YouTube stuff. In fact, one of the things he says is basically, your thumbnails suck, fix it. But he said it nicer than that. Also, Ben, if you want to come on the show and yell at us, we still would love to have you on the show. One day we'll get you. But I also like to obviously one last time thank Alkali, who's been all over the place with creators lately, especially during this very busy time of card reveals and basically getting bombarded by everybody, including me. But we appreciate you. Thank you for all the support. But I think we're toast. We'll see you.
See ya.
So
Slide two brothers meet one another when they slide up to the mic. It's bread and butter with one another. Let's start up that recording light.